Alright, let's give this a go. So, a couple times recently it's come up, this sort of issue of retopology, and people have different, software they prefer, Topo Gun or 3D Code or whatever. And I've tried a lot of that, and I've just come to some kind of different conclusions than everybody else, and I don't know if anybody finds it valuable or not. But I do it in Maya, and so I'm just going to try to go through everything fairly quickly. So here I got my high poly, and it's a good deal higher than this in reality. But usually you don't have to bring in the highest possible version of the meshes into Maya to retopologize them there. And I'll usually go through and I'll kind of find I don't know, some kind of number that seems reasonable. And you got to remember, so everything here is going to be twice as much. So this is counting. ZBrush counts quads, so it'll be 500,000 tries in Maya. So you got to keep that in mind. But that's a reasonable number for this piece, and you go through all the pieces, and some pieces don't need to be that dense, depending on what you have going on. So I've actually imported 50 and more million polys into Maya, and it definitely works better if it's a bunch of pieces, because you can hide stuff and kind of deal with it that way. So what I do is basically, I go through the whole list and I set everything to be at the subdivision where I want to export. And then, you can go to Subtool Master, Export, and you can just do something like this, like, it's a mid version, not a high or a low. Really, it's good enough for retopo. And this will go through and export everything, all the different subtools one at a time. It's kind of simple. It will, if you have a bunch of things that are named the same, like with similar names, you duplicated them. That can be a little sketchy. It might actually crash. And you'll have to figure out either which one is crashing it, or sometimes you can actually just do it one at a time, and that should go a little easier. And then open up Maya. I was experimenting a moment ago. We'll delete that. In fact, I'll open a new file. Here's all my pieces. I just like to drag and drop them. That's need those materials. Test. Okay. And so what we got, is it 16 million? It's not too bad. Gonna deal with 16 million. Missed some pieces though. It's okay. It's not important. So let's see. These shaders suck. I'll create a blend, and this is all kind of gonna help out. So I'll assign the blend, because sometimes what's gonna be useful is to take the blend and edit the transparency. What the hell? That's what I want. Edit the transparency, and we'll see. We'll get to that part. It'll be a little bit easier to see. So you know, and the other thing that I kind of wanted to show off was I made this tool, um, and you can do it without the tool. You can do everything without the tool, but it helps. It really does kind of help, and it kind of just speeds my workflow up a little bit. So the first thing that it's going to do is I'll create the layers. So I'm going to create all these layers, and so I'll take all the high polys and I'll put those there, and then I will go back and you can do like all low. And sometimes it's just good to start from scratch, but sometimes you can actually make use of these meshes. So that's all the low polys. Export. Those. And I'll assign this one to just the default Lambert shader. And I'll drop those there. So let me turn this back on for a second. It's kind of weird looking at that. So you know, essentially what you want to do is you take a piece, and without the script, what you'll do is you'll go to the status line, and there's a live button. You click this live, make it live. And so one thing that I always run into is I use this other script where I'll like select something and hide it, and I can hide everything else. And so this is really a situation where you want to isolate something, you know. So unfortunately, it's once you make something live, you can't select it in the viewport, so you got to go digging for it in the you know, the outliner or something. So anyways, partially that's what my script is going to help. So I'll click add live, and then it creates it. It creates a name and everything. And once I create a couple, I can like bounce back and forth by just, if it's named properly, I can just bounce back and forth to the different pieces, and it'll make those live like that. So, and then I can select the live object, and I can hide it, and I can open up, you know, get into my quad draw tool or whatever, and start breaking out the low poly piece, the low poly. Okay, so that script gets a little tricky. So so part of the reason I wanted to make it part of the reason I wanted to make it transparent is because it will kind of help. The other thing that's actually kind of nice is if you actually only need half of it. I mean, if everything's symmetrical. So I will delete half of this stuff. So I'll make this live. Then I have this piece. And I noticed there's other tools that they have all these, rings and all this crap. So I have developed other strategies that I think work pretty well, pretty quickly. So, the way that I like to do this kind of thing is I'll just make these huge kind of blocky pieces. And just cover as much space as possible, and then you can do a shift, left click, and sort of drop a poly there. And the other really thing that's nice about Maya is you can do, you can do things like extrude, to help kind of build your low poly and I don't know. I just more often than not, I want to do something like that. I want to just do an extrude or like when you come like something that happens pretty frequently is like you build this piece that goes around the eye. You build this piece that goes around the eye. So like I think of it, kind of like blocking out a painting. You do these like really broad strokes, and then it's very simple to just go through and click. You can just come through and add these other little in between pieces. But I get to one of these eye pieces or whatever, and I always want to in some of these retopology software, it seems like kind of tricky. Where what I really want to do is select this edge loop and kind of just extrude it all, and then I can actually select it all, bring it down into a point, merge them, just like do basic polygon editing operations, which for whatever reason, like that's not the way the topology software thinks. But I don't know, that maybe it's just me, but it seems like the thing to do. Yeah, I just do these like big broad, I make these big broad things. You can just drop a straight poly just like that, and kind of get it going your way, cover a big space, chop it up. Need one here. I put more thought into it than this, but a lot of times it does kind of start in these big chunks like that. This is not the most ideal piece to demonstrate because it's kind of complicated and you're not even seeing the majority of the model, which is always kind of important to keep in mind, because some of the pieces will be completely, a lot of that you won't see it at all. But I'll take this piece for example and so I'll add it, draw a quad. And then I select them both. I select that and the live object. And actually another tip is that, it's already like that. The viewport 2.0 is nice in that it will do something like transparency. It'll do transparency sorting really nicely. But there's some other artifacts where it won't. This black line, it kind of shows you the mesh through the other mesh when you're in a quad draw. And that it shows up better if you're in the old like kind of typical viewport. I guess, you know, it's always fucking something, I guess. A little bit of lag going on too. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways. I can drop one of those little dots and try to make the connection that way, or I can just grab the edge and extrude it, and then, you know, connect the corner, and then I can, you know, just drop these little pieces wherever I want, little edge loops, kind of, you know, fill it out. Right, so I'm getting kind of carried away with the little piece by piece thing, which is really not the best strategy. The best strategy is to, like, just grab a huge chunk and then, you know, kind of like make the broad strokes. And then just kind of, I guess, refine it. So, we'll see. I'm gonna check this video out and see how much of an idiot I sound like. And, maybe I will or won't post it.